your baby's close to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Courtney.
Police, what's going on by 515th Street? What's going on there, man? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please, Frank.
Hello? Oh, nothing more creepier than a freaking shaft. Hello? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the stream. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed, and today we're going to be talking about the Dylan Rounds case. And I've got two guests we're going to have on. We're going to have True Crime Utah come on first for a little bit, and we're going to talk about she went to the court hearing for Chase Van Stra yesterday. So we're going to have a little interview with her. And then on the top of the hour, we're going to have Steve from True Crime Web. He is a former law enforcement detective. And so we're going to kind of pick his brain on this Dylan Rounds case. And so we're going to kind of rehash some things and also kind of go over some things that I've discovered. So I can't wait to do that. But before we start, of course, we always want to feature the missing. So real quick, let's hold that over. Bear with me, guys. I'm using StreamYard, so it's always a difficult process for me because I'm so used to my regular OBS. So let's see if we can get this up. Everything looking good. Okay, cool. All right, so this just came in. So this is Jessica Smith. Let me read this. So custody of 3 children was awarded to the father earlier this year, and he has been unable to locate or contact his children or mother. If you have any information regarding their location, please contact the mother below. So it's 3 children, Presley, Boston. So there's 4, 8, and 11-year-old. And there's also Jessica Smith. Looks like she was driving a 2000 Toyota Corolla with the license plate 8B. So this is in Pocatello, Idaho. So anybody out there, this happened on June 26. Now I'm going to have to look into this because this says 21, and I've been seeing that happen a lot, and really it's supposed to be this year. So Karen, or if somebody knows this, please let me know if this was last year, if this is more recent. As a matter of fact, actually, I just see right here at the bottom, it says 22. I don't know why. This has been happening a lot with people putting the wrong year. So this is this year because it just said the flyer was created on July 28th. I don't know. Maybe they did create this flyer and then this isn't 21. I guess that could have happened. I don't know. If somebody, Karen's usually pretty It is 2000. Oh, Missing America's in here. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. That's awesome. Missing America is in here. Amazing. Thank you so much. So that was last year. Okay. Wow, they've been missing for over a year. That's not good. Well, great to have you in here, Missing in America. They do amazing work. I always take something from them, usually when I do my cases in the beginning. So thank you so much for all your hard work that you do doing these flyers. And this was just sent to me. This is Vanessa Santez. If I said that right. Just went missing from Walnut Hill, Florida. Amber alert was just issued. And last seen in the area of 5600 block of Arthur Brown Road in Walnut Hill, Florida. Apparently, she has scars on her face. The child may be in company of Manriquez Ortez. He's 42-year-old with an unknown date. 42 years old with an unknown date of birth. Oh, unknown date of birth. Okay. So unfortunately, it's not the best resolution for this guy, but apparently this is the guy that may have her. And the phone number to call. Do we got a phone number on here? If not, I will. That's a screenshot. I will go back and we'll get a phone number for her going. Just a minute. I didn't realize I cut off the phone number, but yeah, she just went missing on the 27th of July. So Amber Alert has just been issued. So anybody in Walnut Hill or in Florida, keep an eye out for Vanessa or Ortez. And then, of course, since we're talking about the Dylan Rounds case, we have to mention Aiden Clune, who also went missing just a month prior to Dylan Rounds, just south of Wells, near Curry, Nevada. There is a $5,000 reward. They have been out there searching. I haven't been keeping up to date as much as I would like to on as far as what's been going on with the search party, but I know they've had to at least they've been going out there. I know the other weekend they did a attempt to locate him. So, and of course, once I get a vehicle going, we'll try to at least get out there once and help search for him. But unfortunately, I've got vehicle issue that I've got to deal with first. So, and that's kind of the reason why I haven't been live the last few days is big kind of car shopping. So, Vanessa is found. Okay, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, some of these things I get, and then they're issued, and then a few hours later they're found. So that's awesome. Thank you so much, Cats Coffee and Crime, for updating us. That's awesome. Okay, so like I said, I have a guest with us, so we're gonna put her on here. Let me get that real quick. Put me here. Here we go. And so we have True Crime Utah with us. So, hello, how are you today?
Okay. Been a long day, but yeah, that's okay. I'll fall asleep earlier.
Yes, you sound like you've had some busy days and then a long night last night. And so just some, yep.
Yeah.
So just, oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I went to the Chase Venstra hearing yesterday, so that kind of kicked off being busy.
Yeah, so just quick update, guys. So she lives here in Utah, and so she's been trying to make these, because the Chase Venstra court date's kept getting pushed back. Yeah, she's a little quiet. Is there any way? Okay, that's a little better.
Okay. Get the computer.
You just get the mic closer, maybe, or
okay.
Yeah, you're just that sounds a little better. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, she is awesome. So, just a little background. Yeah, so she's been trying to make it to these public hearings, and so she went yesterday to the pre-trial, I guess it would be, for Chase Venstra.
They called it initial appearance.
Initial appearance. Okay, yep.
I thought that it was because on the paperwork they said arraignment, but the judge said initial appearance, and what the judge says wins, right?
Sure.
So yeah, I made sure to get there in plenty of time yesterday because on the James Brenner ones, I didn't know that they had moved courthouse, and so I was getting there kind of the last minute and discovered I had another block to go because they had moved the courthouse to a new building next door. So I wanted to be sure to catch every little crumb that fell at court, and when I got there, there wasn't anybody in the courtroom, and so I figure, okay, well, they'll come, and I waited and waited, and it was 5 minutes till the hearing, and still nobody there, and I'd been waiting for a half hour by that point, and so I started to get nervous that it had been canceled again, and so I popped downstairs, and they said, no, it should be going on. So I popped back up, and the lawyers were in place, and Chase was at the defense table, and so a couple minutes later, the court clerk comes out, and then the judge who was sitting in for Judge Bennett, who seems to handle these short kind of administrative things, came in, and they started out by telling him the charges, and did he understand them, and that they carried a maximum penalty of 10 years and $250,000, and did he wish to enter a plea, and he said not guilty. And then they started talking about kind of court administrative stuff like discovery motions, deadlines, and motions, and trial date of October 3rd, which I'm sure will get postponed, and jury selection. It's supposed to be a 3-day trial, and
Wow.
so and the judge addressed the issue of custody, and he said that Judge Wells had said he was to remain in custody, and that he had no authority to revisit the subject, so there is no bail.
Okay.
And so then they adjourned,
Mm-hmm.
and so I quickly followed the U.S. The Assistant U.S. Attorney General, or no, U.S. Attorney, sorry, for the state out into the foyer, and said, can I ask you a few questions, because there's a lot of confusion regarding the search warrant, because it states that the search warrant is in connection with a homicide, and
Mm-hmm.
Chase Venstra is a person of interest in the disappearance, and there's no official word that he has been deemed to be deceased. So do we have another body, or does this refer to Dylan, or what?
Now,
And
could this be in relates to the charges from Montana that he was
no,
kind of avoiding? Okay, so
no,
this isn't relation to Montana.
no, that's
Okay.
some domestic violence situation with his ex.
Okay.
and
Interesting.
and somebody said that he has a hearing in Montana on that, so it's an electronic one, and I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do, if it's going to be them trying to move for another extradition or not, but Utah's not going to give him up, because I think Fed Trump state. So she's going to have to wait a little while for justice on her case, I'm afraid. But she's okay with, she said that as long as he's locked up.
Right.
So and she wants to see Dylan get found. And I think she said last night that she doesn't remember ever meeting him, but she feels a connection to the town, having been out there. But from listening to the interview, it just sounded like her time out there was horrendous, living off the grid with a generator for power and a camper and so forth. And not you know how hot it gets out there.
Yes, this has been hot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sheila, tomorrow for your $2 donation. So you followed him out, and then you heard some very interesting information when you, as far as how they view him. You want to share that?
Well, okay. They said when I asked him, he kind of sidestepped the issue, saying, "Well, I don't know all of the case on Dylan." And so he couldn't really speak to that, and that I took as code for the search warrant is sealed, so he can't address it. But he then went on to add, but insofar as I know, Chase Venstra is no longer a person of interest in this Dylan Round's disappearance.
Wow,
So,
that's interesting. Now, of course, I wish we could talk to like an attorney. I'm kind of trying to reach out because we were talking behind the scenes before this. It would be great to have an attorney to see, is that some kind of play, or is that are they just being honest, or is there some kind of
well, I've got a little bit of buzz going on with my computer.
Yeah, I just heard that. Okay, it's fine. I think it's fine now.
Okay. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say when the buzzing started.
It's
Yeah. It would be good to get a second opinion from an attorney, but
but yeah, Mhm.
my assessment of the situation is that he's probably cooperating with authorities on Jim Brenner, and that that's why he has ceased to be a person of interest, and that he's cooperating and he's their witness. So he's not a person of interest because he's theirs.
Hmm.
And somebody had said something about a chase and another homicide. Now I think that refers back to a video that I put out back when they misprinted the date on the search warrant in the initial the charging documents, and they said that it was May 12th.
Oh
And
yes, yeah. There was a couple of mistakes in that.
yeah, and instead of June 12th. And so we're going, well, a homicide, and it predates Dylan going missing. So, we've got another body out there. And so I was looking around, and somebody was saying, well, I think it's the guy who was found out by Notch Peak. And so I started doing some checking into that, and Chase's ex told me about a curious incident that she had where he called up in the middle of the night and wanted her to come and get him out of town quick. And that it kind of lined up with when this guy in Notch Peak would have gone missing. And so I was investigating that. I tried to check with the Millard County Sheriff's Office, but the nobody was in who could answer my question. And
Mhm.
so I went with the information, and then the following Monday I checked back, and I found out from the person who was answering the phone that that was ruled a suicide, and so that case is unrelated. And then
Oh,
it turns out that the search warrant was a month later anyway. So I don't know if there's something that was going on in April that why he was so desperate to get out of town that he made her do a 1,000-mile round trip to come and collect them.
Yeah.
He seemed to be saying the Watcher brothers wanted to kill him, and kind of acting paranoid and so forth. And how much of that is drugs talking, I don't know, because he sounded like he was quite the user. So I was talking to Marcus Ortiz a little bit about Robert Aviles, and I've come to the conclusion that Robert Aviles was extradited back to Elko County, and if Utah was truly looking at him in connection with Dylan in any meaningful way, they would have pressed charges against him for receiving stolen property, because the guns that Chase had turns out they were stolen from Nevada, and obstruction of justice, or hindering a police investigation, and let's see, what was the other charge? There was one other possible charge that I figured that they could slap him with, and they didn't. He waived extradition, and they let him go without doing anything to try to keep hold of him like they
Keep
did.
him here for.
Chase Venstra, he waived extradition,
Weird.
and Montana never tried to collect him. And I think that behind the scenes, you had the FBI and Box Elder County talking with Montana, say, no, we really need to hang on to this guy, because while what he did was serious, this is a life and death issue here. So I think that you had a little bit of behind the scene wrangling going on, and
Yeah. Well, that is interesting, and like I said, I thank you for going out there, and you're taking your time to go out there on your own time, and check on what's going on at the courthouse. And who knows? I believe what she heard is true. Could this maybe be a way to uh, make people or on his inside circle think that they're not looking into Chase at all, but really they are? Who knows? That's why I'd love to talk to an actual an attorney to see if this is something that they kind of is that
well, I know that you have prosecutors who will lie to the defendant to try to encourage them through intimidation into taking a plea deal, and so they will miscategorize the evidence and the charges, so that the person will save them the trouble of preparing for trial. And me, I'm just a member of the public, so there's no advantage to putting out false information to me.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and I'm
so
sure what you were told is what you're telling the truth. You'd have no
yeah.
reason to lie. Now, could you have been, just told that to maybe because they knew you were going to go out and tell the public that maybe this could just be a ploy to kind of let people put their guard down? It could be the truth.
I doubt it, because I've
Mhm.
seen other operations where they use some misinformation, and usually the person that they're feeding it to is kind of in on it. Like in the Susan Powell case, they told um, Susan's father to go protest at a certain corner, and that happened to be near the Home Depot that Josh liked to go shop at. And so the dad and Josh come over, and they start getting in a big fight, and they're making a big fuss about Susan's journals, and they arranged to have a news crew there filming it. And so as soon as he mentioned the important evidence in the journals that gave them the probable cause to get a search warrant to go in and search the Powell family home in Puyallup. And so you had two parts to that little operation. You had the father who is said be there and no specific reasons, and you had the reporter who, he's been asked to be there, and they're in on it. So
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. That's another case that that's just because we both are here in Utah, and Susan Powell, that happened here, and unfortunately still haven't found poor Susan Powell. And Heavy D Sparks has been out there multiple times, and hopefully the family will get justice eventually, and they find her.
Well, they can't really have justice at this point because everybody who's culpable is dead.
Yeah, well, I guess closure would be the right word. Closure.
Yeah, closure.
Closure would be the right
Being able to bury her with her sons.
Sure. Yes.
And so that's what everybody wants, and just have the answers, and to know that she's not out there somewhere anymore. So and it's interesting because the environment for Susan Powell is pretty much the same kind of environment as looking for Dylan. It's just further south.
Yes.
You've got the mines, you've got the sagebrush and the ghost towns, and so it's just take it and move it a couple of hours further north, and you've got the same basic environment.
Same thing. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to come on the show, and would love to have you on again soon. And we've got Steve coming up, so but I really appreciate you going out and taking the time out of your day to go out and go to these court hearings. And obviously you had a rough time because they kept pushing it, so she kept showing up at the courthouse. Told her no, it's not happening today, so she showed up the next day. No, it's not happening today, and so this happened to her 3 times. So
they're gonna start charging me rent at that rate.
Yeah, I don't. That's you charge them. So thank you so much, and I will put your link. And if you guys want to check out, she's been kind of starting her channel, and she's been been covering this case. So thank you so much, Glory Dylan, and you are awesome.
Okay, thank you.
All right, have a good night, sweetheart.
You too.
Bye-bye. Okay. So yes, we have Steve with True Crime Utah coming on here in just a second. So let's pop him on real quick, and then we'll just kind of go over what the game plan is. Hey, Steve.
Hey, how you doing tonight, sir?
Good, buddy. How are you?
Doing good. Had a good day. Everything's good. I've been looking forward to this and seeing what you had on the agenda for us.
Yes. So let's pull it up here. So I thought we would start with the timeline. So for those that may not know, he's a little newer to this case. So we're going to kind of just rehash the timeline. We're just going to go over the basic stuff real quick. And then we're going to shift over to the cell phone because they've talked about this. Yeah, the buzzing was from True Crime Utah. Sorry about that. It happens. So it should be good from here on out. So then we'll talk about the cell phone a little bit, and then we'll talk about the evidence, mainly the boots and the truck. And then now this is kind of weird because I set this up before I talked to True Crime Utah, and so, but we're still going to obviously look into Chase and everything. Just because we heard that he's not person of interest, of course, we're still going to look at all the stuff, everybody that's been involved around this Dylan Rounds case. So that, just because, and I do, obviously, I believe she was told what she heard. And like I said, I would love to have an attorney on just to understand if that's something that they would tell the public to kind of throw them off. Who knows? But like I said, but I do believe that's what she heard and was told. And but then we'll still go over Chase. Today we're going to go over Chase and Brenner. I know we've got the Wadsworth, but we only have so much time, and of course, Steve's newer to the case, so let's we'll just kind of go over the timeline, take a break, discuss it, and then just step by step. Does that sound good, buddy?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. Excuse me. So I'm going to quickly jump over to. Now I'm going to use this. I know some people would frown on this as the best timeline to use, but we're going to use it just for now. We're just going to really focus on the days prior, and then just basically the days leading up to his disappearance, and then talking about when they arrived and everything. So I think the main thing is Wednesday on. Let me just pull up a calendar first, so you can just kind of see the calendar. It's a lot.
Yeah, I scanned through the timeline earlier, so I read through.
Okay, great,
so
awesome.
I have some inkling of where you're headed.
Cool. So I will switch over to this, and then I will jump over to that just one more time, just because there's one thing I want to point out later on. So really, we have the whole incident with Chase Venstra. The whole reason he's got involved is on Wednesday the 25th. He supposedly stumbles out of the desert. There's been talk about he had no boots on. He was barefoot. He was kind of bloody. I've got an actual Facebook message where he says that, he had boots on. He wasn't bloody. He just needed a ride. So take it for what it's worth. But that happened on Wednesday. And apparently he got a ride back into Montello, from what Chase says. Then you move on to Thursday, which would really be when Dylan was apparently last seen physically at the Saddle Store in Montello. And it was originally Friday. Apparently this guy was kind of unreliable, because the guy said he saw him on Friday, but then changed it to Thursday. So they just kept it with Thursday. Then Saturday is the big day. I think Saturday is most likely when something went down. So Dylan calls his grandmother at 6:51 a.m. It's a short phone call. Says, "Grandma, I am going to put the grain truck in the shed because it's going to rain." Apparently now, so if this is just before 7, I heard that the storm basically came in early in the morning around 7. So it sounded like, and it usually kind of goes southeast. Usually the storm, it would come from the northwest. From what I've been out there, that seems that's kind of how it goes, is kind of more west, but it's kind of southwest when the storms pass through. So then apparently, so it was just a short conversation at 6:51. They don't hear from him at all the rest of the day. Sunday, they contact Jim and Dawn, and they apparently go out to look for Dylan. They don't find him. And then Monday is when finally the parents and everybody come out on Monday, and they cannot find Dylan. And so that's just kind of the basic timeline there. And let me just quickly, and then we'll get into the cell phone ping, which I think is kind of interesting. Let me just make sure I didn't skip anything important. So Chase was apparently seen on that Saturday at approximately 10 p.m. on camera at a Little Caesars, which is kind of pretty late. And I've got a screenshot of how far that is, but 200 miles. It's only 2 hours, 2.5. Then okay, so let's jump that. I just want to see if there's anything I wanted to point out to you. The 6:51. Arrive. So they arrive. Then search week. Okay, so yeah, that's basically the timeline. So now they get there, and we'll stick with the cell phone because that's the timeline. Anything on the timeline you want to talk about?
Sure. the timeline that you have here is based upon what is knowledge to the public. Law
Yeah.
enforcement, when they become involved in it, they're going to do another type of timeline. It's going to be along the victimology. And they're
Okay.
going to go back and develop a journal of his life for the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, or his whole time out there. And they're going to build a timeline of what he did daily and weekly, what his movements were, what his normal habits are. We all have these habits. And so, but they also do that victimology to see that if there's certain paths that he might have crossed someone during that week. And then when they do the criminal profiles, they will do the exact same thing, but from a criminal standpoint of whoever their persons of interest are, and see, because they'll be able to track everything. I think the other day when we were talking, you said that Dylan wasn't real big into cash, that he was into debit cards and credit cards or whatever. And so you'll have the financial records that they'll be able to build where he went daily, weekly, what days, because all of us shop on certain days. All of us go out to eat certain places. And so you can build a really good track of a victim and understand exactly what that person's habits are throughout the week. And you can see the outliers, and when certain things come into a person's life, a new interest, a new love, or something, that their spending habits may change. But law enforcement would do this. And then when you track and you add on that you've got his financials, you've talked to his family, you know about his personal life, then you start looking at what we're about to talk about in a few minutes, the phone pings. And you can see, because they won't just look from the 25th on, they're going to look back past that. What was his normal activities? Where did his phones ping throughout his workday in the weeks ahead? And then they'll be able to see that when did that change and what happened and what created that change. And so there's a lot more information that, of course, this timeline here is great, but law enforcement is going to have a timeline of events and a history on this, on Dylan, that is far superior to this, and which will be the main focus of the investigators evaluating other activities in the area.
Yes, I love that victimology. That's amazing. Building that, basically the habits. What's his normal daily routine going up to him missing, and then what's the daily routine to the people that are surrounding him coming up to him going missing, and what has changed between, coming up to the day he's missing, basically their habits and where they've been at. I think is amazing. Yeah, totally. That's why I love to have you on, because you have such a list. It's just amazing. I could just pick your brain all day about this stuff, and wish we'd have time to delve into everything. So let's. So that's amazing. So let's. We'll move into. We're gonna touch on the cell phone just a little bit, and then we're gonna switch over to the evidence with the truck, because I've got information about where the truck's at, and some of the stuff that's in basically that's been taken. So, but we'll jump to the cell phone real quick, because I did cover that. I noticed there was another channel that's kind of big that's been covering this case, and they were kind of wondering where that cell phone ping was at, because his last cell phone ping, I think, is very interesting. And it could be in relation to a cell phone call that he made. And we'll talk about that in just a minute, but I will play the video. So make sure I find the right video here.
News reporter Emily Tenser, she visited the spot.
And you can hear that okay, Steve?
Where he was last seen.
Okay, I'm going to skip the intro here.
Person case is Joseph at the end of my video, so please stay. So for those who are, so in the initial interview with the mother Candace, she talks about how law enforcement told her the last place Dylan's cell phone pinged was on the edge of the cell tower's 15-mile radius. They talk about a specific location in a gully just south of the tracks where there is a bend in the road. I just wanted to point out that location they are talking about.
Past that over there, you'll see the hill, and that's the last place his phone was pinged. Right. That
Where?
after.
Right past that shop by the railroad tracks, there's a hill you drop
Oh,
down
the
in.
shop in the railroad tracks.
Yeah.
You can see the road kind of
Goes like that, right where it makes the bend. That's
what time it was pinged at.
1541, but it gives a 15.4 mile radius, and the cop showed me on the map. So if you draw that circle from the cell phone tower, this is part right on the edge of it, and the rest of the circle Dylan would have no reason, to be at. It's out in the middle of nowhere, so that's where it was.
Was that before or after?
Although this is not an exact location and more of an estimated point that Dylan's phone last sent a signal from, here is that gully they're talking about, which is fairly close to the water hole, which I've heard this water hole has been searched numerous times along with us. Although this is an estimated point, it is interesting that the little bit of evidence they have found almost points in one direction, just like the boots. And could this have been done intentionally to throw law enforcement off, making them think that Dylan is somewhere west of Lucin, which in the first 2 weeks...
I was just writing down some notes. So yeah, I've been hearing some stuff about, and yes, thank you, Black Dove. Now, didn't you change are you back to your normal? I thought it was Darkwing Dove. But yeah, interesting. Isn't it Darkwing Dove now? There's I don't know. Anyway, thank you though. Yeah, I've been hearing that's changed, but we'll stick with 341. I think the more interesting thing is just where the cell phone ping was at itself, which I'm just going to show you here. And if it's 241, 341, it's still within a little time range. And so just to give you an idea here, Steve. So this location is this grain truck. Oh yeah, you can't see my mouse. So here we go. Here's where he called Grandma.
Yes.
And this is at early in the morning. This is where he told his grandma he was going to go to. Now, we're not sure if he was actually at that location. Apparently, the cell phone ping was at or near his farm, is what they say in the timeline. His farm is 5 miles east, right here. Now, the mother says that he would walk sometimes from his farm to the shed. Now, there's another guy that's worked with Dylan a lot named Kurt Wadsworth, and we'll get into him maybe in a part 2. But he says that Dylan was usually lazy and would usually drive back and forth. So, either way, I guess, we can't really know for sure. But either way, he was on his way to put the grain truck in the shed on that Saturday. And then either at 241 or 341, last cell phone ping, they talk about a gully and where the road curves. As you can see, there's a road that curves here, north and west of it. And so it's basically, and if they said a 14.2 mile radius, which is basically, we look back here, as you can see, I've got my I think I got 15.4 mile radius, but the cell tower, which is up here, this is where they clearly are talking. That's what it pinged off. So yeah, so that's what we got is we got the last cell phone ping somewhere in that timeline, with it landing somewhere right there is what they say. And then of course, Saturday, as far as the two people, and I guess we'll get into the persons of interest last, but Chase says at 10 p.m. he was, let's pull him up. Oh, I've got the video. Okay, so that's what I've got to play. So I've got the, is that good there? Yeah, I'll play the video for you here. No, that's not it. That's not. There it is. Okay.
Lost 17 days at that point.
Okay, so I kind of broke this up so we could discuss it. So this is the mother talking, and this is kind of going over what they have taken as far as evidence and really the boots in the truck.
With the same evidence they had 3 days into it. So, they did take Dylan.
And this is what his farm looks like. What I just showed you, that's the east of the grain shed. He had his camper in his truck. What you're seeing is actually a picture of where they found everything. So they haven't really moved anything except for breaking into the truck itself. But I don't think they've actually moved anything at this point. But they have already clearly, unfortunately, contaminated the sea.
Campers.
Finally,
Finally,
when the FBI came,
when the
the day
FBI
the
came
FBI arrived, they took the campers.
And what about his trucks?
And I reached out to Bonneville County, and they reached into ISP, and they have the truck,
The pickup.
The
the
pickup.
pickup, and then the tractor he was driving. I don't know if I reached out to ISP and stuff to go check the ECM on that to just get an idea of when that tractor was running. I haven't heard anything about that yet. It's in Rupert.
That might give you a clue there.
Give an idea of when the tractor was actually running.
Yeah, so ECM, for those that may not know, it's basically like a black box for vehicles. It's something that's put into newer vehicles, and basically it records information such as the engine performance, fuel efficiency, cruise, climate control, mechanical problems. Basically just a big black box for vehicles, and they have them for tractors. I talked to my cousin Nick, who actually used to work with farm equipment, and yeah, some of the equipment he used actually had this EMC equipment in it. So keep up the great work. Thank you so much, Brett Emma. You're awesome. So the truck is, because last time we talked, we weren't sure about the truck. So the truck is obviously in ISP. So they've taken that, and we'll play just a little bit more
You think about
here.
something like this, and I'm sure it's gone through your.
Okay, so I paused it there so we could kind of discuss. So they have the truck, the tractor, both campers, and obviously the boots. Now the boots were found. So one of my questions I have for you is, what do you think when you come across the scene and you've got a pair of boots with a spot of blood on them and nothing else?
Oh yeah, it's probably one of the worst signs you can have, especially if the mother, as what she's noted, is that he only had one pair of boots.
Yes.
Of course, they can check within his trailer and see what other footwear he has, and if there's additional footwear that he does have, it may be like for church or certain events that he might go to, because work boots are work boots, and farmers have certain attire they may wear to town for going to banks and things versus what they work in the field with. But no, it's never a good sign to find a pair of normal wearing boots that a potential victim might have been wearing at the time of his abduction or encounter, or whatever took place there.
Yeah. And another thing that's obviously that took place in the beginning, and I'm sure you probably experienced this. Is it kind of makes it tougher when so obviously it's on the border. So you've got Elko County, Box Elder, so two, Utah and Nevada. This is also just near the border of Idaho. And then you get FBI involved. So you've got almost 3 or 4, different entities working this. What's that like? Is that tougher, or does that make it easier, or?
Well, it's all about coordination, and at what point did they form up a task force, and who is going to take charge of that task force? And typically or generally, it's going to be that who is going to be taking it to court. Of course, you won't know that until if he's found and he's and you find a body somewhere and it's a homicide. Then, of course, whatever jurisdiction that comes into, because they generally that wherever the body is where the homicide is until you can prove different. At least that's how here in Georgia. That if you have a body in a different county, it's across county lines. It's where the body is where the trial will be. and unless you have sufficient evidence that supports it somewhere else. But but with the FBI being involved and everything, and I don't know currently which one is lead agency other than, do you know which one's lead agency?
I think it's Box Elder. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I'm pretty sure it's Utah's running it. FBI is just assisting. Because I heard somebody say FBI was lead, and then they got really attacked by some people. So I'm thinking it's Box Elder.
Okay. But regardless, they'll have a command staff, and there'll be briefings, and I mean it's going to be, you're looking at all these agencies, and certainly in certain investigations there are power struggles, but and I never really feared that the power struggles because everybody wants to solve the case, and there's nothing wrong with competition. That that if you're assigned a certain duty, but now if you have someone that's disruptive or they are trying to interfere, there's ways of getting rid of them, and it's just a matter of control and command, and having the proper personnel and proper leadership. And I don't know what the current atmosphere is with the investigation. Does the mother feel currently everything's well in hand, or?
She does, and she feels like it's kind of because it's a little weird because they told not people to search, but they haven't found the body, and then now people are thinking kind of makes it, well, where's the investigation at? Because the family really hasn't been out to interview lately until now. This actually interview that I'm playing for you actually came from the mother, obviously 4 or 5 days ago. So this is kind of the first time in like weeks that a family members came out and kind of gave an official update. So, but they said there's things going on.
Well, with this investigation, there's going to be that if of any part of the country to have an investigation and have this many agencies and the technologies and the resources that can be brought, because when we start looking at the suspects and we start looking at data that can be collected, not just on the victim, but on suspects, because you'll be able to eliminate a lot of people during certain time frames, good and bad guys, of course, and because you'll know where they're at. If they're not within a certain distance, that's within this range of pings, because it is still a large area that you have to look at from the data from the cell tower pings. But
yes,
they'll weed through that, and they'll build their persons of interest and their suspects from that.
I totally agree. Because it's obviously it's just the middle of the desert. So if they had a cell phone and they're out there, they're going to clearly, hopefully know that. And then they'll be able to determine, were they out there for the right reasons or not. So let's, okay, so she's going to talk about, so for right now, I know there's some other persons of interest, but right now we're really going to just talk about just the three, Jim, Don, and Chase, and really just Jim and Chase. Jim and Don worked for Dylan. Don did have a kind of an argument before this happened, but I've heard good things about him when we went and talked to some of the locals. And clearly, I guess you could kind of say he kind of ratted out on Jim because Jim went and hid guns in Don's trailer. And so Don, of course, then told the FBI or law enforcement. And so they ended up getting the warrant and then obviously getting Jim. Jim was actually squatting, which is really weird because he is now the person that is technically, as you can see, a suspect in the case. Right now, he's the only suspect. I do feel like there's at least two people involved in my okay, chat is slow. Okay, I've got it almost down to 20. All right, I will slow it down a little bit more. Slow it down? Is that what you... Okay, chat is slow. Okay, all right. Well, I'll try to speed it up here in just a minute. But yeah, so as far as Don, I'd say we'll just focus on Jim and Chase. But so yeah, and then of course, obviously, Jim was arrested in July. and is now the suspect. He did also work for Dylan. One of the biggest things to mention between Jim and Dylan is this property. Now I'm going to come back to this video because there's a lot of information. I kind of broke this video down for you, but I do want to show you. So they did find Jim. So this is basically the property. It's a square. I wish you could see my mouse, but this property here with a grain truck and where I believe is the crime scene. They found him squatting on this property somewhere, and he actually had a trailer, which is in this picture. His trailer is right here. This is his trailer right here. So now I don't know if this was the particular one, but he was on this property squatting when they caught him, which is really weird. Like if he's the suspect, like why would you, unless you just felt that confident, you know what I mean?
Well, and if they've named him as a suspect, which is strong words for any investigation, and it's even stronger when you've already classified it as a homicide, that they have some information that leads them to, does Jim have a phone? Where was his activities for that day? What was his profile? And what was his normal activities day in and day out? And did they change? And at what time did they change? Because when they go out there and subpoena those cell pings, they're going to subpoena those pings for all of these suspects, just like they would for Dylan. And they're going to correlate and see exactly and interpret what that means. Are we in the same area at the same times? And when do we separate?
Yeah.
And do we move together? Do the pings move together? I don't know if he has a cell phone. I don't know if what his lifestyle was or anything.
Yeah, I would think he has a cell phone because obviously he was contacting, I guess because Jim and Don would contact the family, I believe, in some degree, and so I clearly assume that would be a cell phone. So I would go out on a limb and say he probably had some kind of cell phone. So let me switch back to this real quick.
But that's what it was.
Okay, so like I said, this is the interview with the mother. This is the recent one. Like I said, there's a few things that she says which are very interesting. And she talks about the Jim and Chase.
We weren't there. We don't know. I know the story Dylan told me about. It was about hooking up his washing machine, but it's not like it was a knockdown, drag out,
Bitter party.
Yeah.
Side of
Correct.
things are happening.
Yeah.
We do know that there's two people that lived in the area or were in the area. Chase Venstra, who has appeared in court, and then we have the other neighbor who was James Brenner.
Correct.
So can you tell people who are just tuning in how those guys knew your son and about the charges?
Yeah, so James, I know him as Jim, he helped Dylan. Day work, off and on. He helped him in southern Idaho take apart his pivot. He lived out on the property. He squatted out on the property when Dylan first discovered the area when he was like 15. He might have been 16 years old. So just a work acquaintance. I mean, when you're out there and you've only got 6 people around you, you kind of get to know everybody. So that's how him and Jim, it was just, he'd help him on the farm when he needed it. As far as Chase, I never heard Dylan say that man's name, ever, until all this happened. I have no clue.
Okay, so this is his response. This is a Facebook post to somebody, I believe. So his words are, Dylan stopped. Now, this would be that Wednesday, the 25th. Dylan stopped and picked me up Wednesday. He gave me a short ride, said he was low on gas, let me charge my phone. So obviously in the truck, gave me a drink and dropped me off. My son worked for him last year, so I've known him a while. He had no fear of me. I had my boots on. I own property out there. And and was stranded. I was last seen when he dropped me off around 10 a.m. Wednesday, the 25th. I got a ride back home that day. I was not out there Saturday at all and can prove it. A couple of stores will have me on camera that afternoon. Now, apparently that afternoon means like 9-10 p.m. from what I'm discovering. I still got to research a little bit more on that. So I don't know, if you're being seen at late at night, and I still got to just, dive into this a little bit more. But, what were you doing during the day? I know it's a 2-hour drive, but I'll show you real quick.
I don't think they knew each other. I mean, probably just in passing from being in Montello.
After here in just a second, it's going to show the distance between the Lucin area, where the farm is, and where he was supposedly seen at.
And stuff. I did find out that Chase's son helped Dylan last summer on some day work, I believe when they were putting in the main line, but not Chase. And that was just one of the run into him in the Montello store and say, hey, you want to come out and help? I'm looking for help.
So that's just the distance. So it's about 2.5 hours. You could probably make it. If you were, because a lot of that highway, at least from Lucin to like Park Valley, probably even up to, I'm trying to read it, but yeah, I'd say half of that drive, you could probably go 80 miles an hour. And so you could probably make that in like 2 hours, probably even less, really, if you really wanted to. Does
Chase have a vehicle, or is he riding with others?
So Chase, yeah, that is interesting because clearly he didn't have a vehicle. He was getting rides. So it is interesting how he got out there and who got him out there, as far as who gave the ride. FBI went to Park Valley, which is on the way where Chase was seen, knocked on doors. Someone used the old rail grade to get there quicker than on normal roads as well. Ooh. So I know what you're talking about, Black Dub. We've been out in that exact area. Ooh, man, I don't know if it'd be quicker or not. If you were doing something on foot, maybe. I don't know if it's quicker. I would have to take a look at it. To be honest with you, I'd take twice as long in my personal. I don't know. I'd have to see the old rail grade. We passed by some of that, and like it's just because it's dirt and it's rock. I mean, I guess you could fly through it, but you're gonna probably pop a tire, and I don't know. It's possible. I'm sure maybe there's a few areas, but I guess I don't want to get off beat here. But so anyway, back to Chase. That's where he says he was at.
But other than that, I never heard Dylan say Chase's name.
Okay, so James Brenner, it sounds like he's a felon, and so when the police went out to just serve a search warrant around the time that Dylan disappeared, they found weapons in his trailer.
Correct.
And he, as a felon, you're not allowed to own weapons. So he's been arrested. So he's been charged with possessing a firearm as a felon.
Correct.
And he's in custody in Utah. And then Chase Venstra also is in custody on firearms charges.
Yeah, and his charges, the last I know, and that may be the court appearance you heard about yesterday, was now the firearms that were in Chase's motorhome have been traced back to being stolen. And so now it goes a step higher because not only were you a felon with firearms, but you had stolen ones, which they're pretty sure he stole.
So you've got these two characters that lived out there. Do you think that they know what happened to Dylan? Or,
so Chase didn't live out there.
Or Chase did not live out there. But he was visiting?
He would go back and forth between Montello and Ogden, and what we were told, and that's just what we were told, is he'd go over, steal stuff from Montello, hurry up, jump the border, go back to Ogden and sell it.
Okay.
That's what we were told by everybody, hence the stolen firearms.
And I guess, yeah, I appreciate you making that clear, because the way I think that we understand it is he may have had contact with Dylan around the time Dylan disappeared.
Yeah.
So do you think that there's more here in connection to your son?
I believe so. I mean, Brenner has been listed as an official suspect. In the affidavit that was served to get the warrant on Chase, they listed a homicide investigation. That was in the affidavit, and that's thrown up a lot of questions with people. So, I did clarify that with law enforcement. So Chase was set to be extradited to Montana, and they didn't want that happening. So not wanting that happening tells me something right there. We honestly haven't been told, but that's when they went in and got the search warrant. So in that affidavit, they put in, how'd they word that, conjunction with a homicide investigation. Come to find out, you can put anything you want in an affidavit for a warrant. None of it has to be true, but it's what you.
Okay, so that's interesting because we learned that from you, Steve, from the Ron Logan search warrant. That they can make up stuff, but it has to be based on fact, right? You can't just make up stuff. I think she kind of overindulges. Go ahead, explain that if you could, or a little bit.
Yeah, officers have this, a search warrant is actually only, probable that something probably happened is all they have to do. But law enforcement sometimes they'll create extra points and more interest, and they'll put more bravado into what's happening and making their case seems like this is the person, we're going to prove it without a doubt. But it's not all, law enforcement shouldn't do that. They should just be what the facts are, because you're swearing that this is the truth, and there's no need to putting extra into it. And it's sad that some officers do that, but it shouldn't be that way. But most certainly you'll see that happening in a lot of affidavits for search warrants and even arrest warrants. All the evidence will come out in court, and that's where you have to have all the evidence
evidence
that will prove that someone did beyond a shadow of doubt that they did the crime. But the search warrants, like I said, people always put a little bit too much in there, and I hate that happens.
So you're saying they kind of obviously exaggerate, and then people take too much into it and say, oh my gosh, this is what they said in the search warrant. This is fact. This is what happened, but this is really.
Yeah, with Ron Logan, like I said, they did the same with him with the Delphi, and so you just have to read into it and understand that maybe someone is exaggerating or making their point a little bit stronger than what actually is the events.
Right. Interesting. So, because
like I said, based on truth, because you're swearing that what you're saying is truthful.
Yeah. It's kind of wild. I thought they had to be like, for search warrants. I thought that would, they have to stick with like, straight up facts and, but yeah, I've learned so much.
They should, but unfortunately, like I say, they'll make it sound like without a shadow of a doubt, this is it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, and when that's not the case sometimes.
Yeah.
Can put in it and kind of prove to get a judge to sign it faster, and that's what held Chase here.
Okay.
And to get it to have the judge sign it faster. I mean, that is true though, right? I mean, which is sad to say, but
it's sad. But as long as it's based upon fact, and if they had this where that was all the stuff was recorded and all that was brought to evidence in the trial, you'd see a lot more. The soundness of the search warrants would be of a better quality if it was something that was actually recorded and brought into court every time. And that may be what eventually has to happen. Back in the day, we didn't have that ability. Nowadays, we have the technologies that everything can be video recording, and a lot of warrants and applications have gone that route now. That it's not like we used to just wake up a judge in the middle of the night and say, hey, so-and-so did this, sign a warrant, and it was almost like a rubber stamp.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. I'm trying to, hopefully the thing's working with the chat. Like I said, I don't use StreamYard that much. I absolutely hate it. I dread using StreamYard. I love having guests, but I dread StreamYard. And I have to, because with using StreamYard, I have to still work with YouTube Studio. And so I got to work these two screens. And then, sometimes you don't know how much volume you're going to have on your channel. And so you don't know if the chat's going to be super fast or slow. And so, so sometimes it starts slow and then everybody kind of, anyway. So if everything's good, hopefully let me know, mods, if the chat's okay. And if I miss anything, I apologize. So a quick thing before we get back into this. So it was supposed to be next weekend that I'm getting my new room and studio, but it's actually this weekend. They just changed it. So I'm so excited because, right now I'm in a room that's probably smaller than most people's bathrooms. I'm not even kidding. So it'll be nice to actually have a full desk because my setup's not right. I've got my second monitor above my first monitor, but it kind of overlaps each other, and I can't fully see the chat just because I have to have it on this screen. And anyway, long story short, I'm going to have that all solved by the end of the weekend. So I'm super stoked. But anyway, so yeah, with that, let's skip this for just a little bit.
FBI and box.
Oops. Back. Okay. So now this is what I really want to talk to you about is the crime scene for sure. And then we'll try to do some questions.
Well,
if you guys
it was
have for
my
Steve.
kid, I'd be out there searching.
Real quick. Chris, it really could be off so people can converse more easily. Oh, you want it off? Is it slow or fast? I can't tell. I'm not even sure if I'm even fixing it because I don't really use StreamYard. You guys are going to have to bear with me. I'm sorry. I don't use StreamYard. Sorry, Steve. It is down to 15. I don't know. If this doesn't do it, then I don't know why it's not communicating with YouTube. Sorry, guys. Too slow. I don't know how to change it on StreamYard, if there is something to change on StreamYard. Let me know if that changes it. So anyway, all right, let's get back into this.
Nonstop. Why don't they want help with the search?
Right.
Can you address that?
So what people got to realize is the FBI and Box Elder have been out there, and they have been gathering stuff from the soil, from that immediate. They have been all over it. They've had more heavy equipment out there. They've had more dogs out there. They have been all over it. You take somebody who's untrained and just think they're going to go out there and be the hero. They're stepping over the stuff that the FBI and Box Elder County are now gathering, and Elko and all these law enforcement agents that are now involved. Us going out there, civilians, we just ruined stuff. The whole crime scene, the whole scene, we call the crime scene now, was so tainted from the beginning because of how it was handled. Everything that's there needs to be preserved. And I am sorry, you're not going to go out and go walking through that desert and just stumble across my son, because we have been everywhere. Horses, dogs, air, ATVs, search and rescue. I think we had, 6 choppers out there, multiple planes. We have covered it. Now that we've gathered evidence, it's kind of taken a different direction. And we need to let it go that direction and not destroy what's left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one of the problems is I don't want to blame the mother. They just obviously they didn't know, and they went out there, and obviously the scene was contaminated, and I think everybody's kind of guilty of that. But obviously I don't think they're thinking the worst case scenario. They're just thinking the son is just missing. Obviously it's the middle of the desert. Go ahead.
Yeah, the first 3 days when there's chance of life.
Yeah.
That's, anyone and everyone. But after that, then there most certainly has to be a change of direction and strategy of what we have to look at. Has he fallen into somewhere that we might be able, that was he walking? Was he taking a shortcut, fell into an old mine shaft, or got bit by a snake and crawled up her, there's so many different scenarios that could have been accidental that the public could have helped and found him during that. But after 3 or 4 days on such open terrain, and what I've seen, your capabilities, you out there with a drone, being able to, and with everyone else that's flown helicopters and planes, that if he was out in plain sight, she's true, they would have found him that first week.
Yeah, and I also even have one of the locals, actually, where they are stationed is in a very kind of like a. Let me actually just pull up. It's a really good spot where they. Sorry, I'm so not used to StreamYard. I would say I hate StreamYard. To be honest with you, I absolutely loathe it. I mean, I hate it. So we gotta add stuff, take stuff off. I just love OBS. You just
A lot of
set
searches
everything
did
up.
take
Oh
place.
my gosh. See, that's why I hate it so bad. Okay, this is all right. This is my screen. So let me show you. What was I going to show you? Completely forgot what I was going to show you.
Well, you showed where the trailer was, where the homesteader Jim might be staying at. And of course, we know where the barn and the grain truck was, and we know where the boots are. And so I don't know where else you was heading with it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Where the people are. Let me pull up Google Earth. So like I said, oh yeah, you can. Let me pull this up. Did I just remove it all the way? That's why I hate it. That's what I did, is I removed it. Okay, there it is. Okay, so here we got the grain shed, which is now technically the crime scene. Basically, the mother, basically kind of slips up. I don't know if she slipped up or meant to say it, but basically, this was the crime scene where the grain truck, which I think is pretty strong words and something I want to ask you as well. But one of the things, like you said, they would have found his body laying out is, so there's a nice set of locals that live up here on Lion Mountain Ranch. And as you can see, they've kind of got a bird's eye view of the valley. And they said that they kind of, once he went missing, they kind of course, they kind of looked out for just any suspicious activity. And then they also kind of looked to see if there was any birds flying around, hovering. They didn't see any of that. So it sounds like as far as just being dumped, or at least in the near vicinity, doesn't sound like that happened. But my question is, so obviously now we've learned, because the locals said that they had seen crime scene tape basically roped off around this area here. There was kind of a statement put out by the Facebook group saying that was something else, but they're like, yeah, that was roped off. Even when we went out there the second time, the FBI was out there, and they were clearly searching the soil. They were doing grid searches from what we could see. So I definitely think for them, they've found evidence to suggest, a crime, like bullet fragments, shell casings.
And, of course, they may have been that if someone lived there and they have firearms, you have your normal activities of shooting firearms, but it's a different thing that if you have something you find where there's signs of a struggle, and then maybe some blood or some other type of evidence near a location, near the boots, say, and when they block off these crime scene areas, and like I said, they could bring in K9s that may track, and it could be a cadaver dog or some type of scent dog that may react to certain whatever the discipline that the dog is trained in, that will alert on, and then they'll bring in another dog with the same discipline and the same training, and if it alerts in the same area for the same reasons, then of course they may go in and start pulling that soil, doing that almost like an archaeological dig, and securing what evidence, and because there can be a lot of, you may not see what until it gets back to the lab, what the fibers are, what's the story, what chemicals are in the soil, is there blood, is there urine, or what all's there, and until it's sent to a lab and it's been tested and the reports come back.
Yeah. Just if you guys are wondering, it is Don Hatley. I kind of knew that at the very beginning, but because like I said, I've only heard good things about him, and I really didn't want to put his full name out there, but I think people have kind of started to figure it out. But yeah, it is Hatley. That is the Don H that worked with Dylan, because I was told by someone that was out there. But yeah, so Hatley, like I said, I don't think Don owns property. He has property that's near. It's kind of south of the grain shed area, I believe. But like I said, all the stories I've heard, he was kind of let go just before this happened, but he wasn't upset. He was just like, I'm going to go on my fishing trip, So the other thing is motive. And I think probably the biggest one on the table is he got, $30,000 check, which he was going to put into buying equipment, upgrading his farm probably. And so you've got a small town over here in Montello, and you've got these kind of criminals like Chase and Robert and a few others that obviously clearly steal stuff from Nevada, and then they take it to Utah, and then they go pawn it and stuff or whatever. And so it could have been easy that the word got out that he had this check, and unfortunately that Saturday someone showed up thinking he had some kind of cash on him. He didn't, or maybe he had $20 on him, but he clearly didn't have, because no one's as far as like financial, nothing's been taken as far as like bank and stuff like that. So but his wallet and him are missing. I think we kind of touched on that, but and yeah, as far as what's missing, because it was the key fob and then I suppose a gun, but the key fob was actually in the trailer, and I've got pictures for you of the trailer here. So this is pictures of the trailer right after they showed up. It does kind of look like it's been, now it looks like they say this is just how Dylan lived. It's just a teen, 19-year-old kind of messy kid. But it does kind of look like some of the shelves are open, a little more ransacked, and you know what I mean? You got the doors open here. It does kind of look like someone had been going through the trailer. But
now, when you look at motives, law enforcement's going to look at just not what, there's always, and you can look it up online, there's the top 10 motives. And sometimes it's going to be something simple that, while you may have a motive such as that cash came in, and people may have known about the cash, but you could also have a motive that maybe it was just a simple argument between two individuals that for whatever reason, for that day and that time, were we in a rush and somebody wouldn't move quick enough, or did we catch somebody in a bad mood? And if it's the right type of personality and you push the wrong button at the right time, bad things can happen. I mean, and so law enforcement would be looking at those motives too. They'll always go through those motives of, okay, most certainly we'll look at the cash. That's a motive. But if it's not the cash, what other motives could have happened between two individuals? Was it a burglary that had been, or theft that was occurring that he stepped in on? Was it someone that he had a conflict with over a power struggle of what, argument, just a simple argument? Brothers have killed brothers, friends have killed friends over simple arguments. So, and law enforcement will look at all of those.
Yeah. And thank you, Jill, for sending that in. Yeah, so it does look like, so So one of the controversial things about the boots, was it blood or not, is that it appears that there was stains on his boots before that, because there's a video of him like on a video that was put out that's pretty short, but he's wearing his boots and you can kind of see a stain on the boots. So that, is it that stain or is it? But from what I understand, that they have confirmed it's blood. Now, if it's him or not, who knows?
Oh yeah,
But
if it's someone else's blood on his boots, there's a lot of explaining to do.
yeah. Let's see. And I appreciate Black Dove sharing all this information. I'm going to try to reach out to you. I have not received an email from you. You'd not be the first person and will not be the last. I am going to change my email or open up a secondary one. I don't know where my emails. I had the problem with you, Steve. I had to get yours. Usually half the time I have to get your guys' email because it just, I don't know where my emails go. I don't know if it's just put in wrong or what happens. I check my spam. It's not there. So weird. Absolutely weird. So the other thing we haven't talked about is the truck. And I'm going to play you just a clip from the truck here.
I'm Nate Eaton here with Candace.
And that is at the 5-minute mark. Yeah.
We found out from detectives the boots had not been sent to the lab. And this was around Dylan's pickup, they're around his camper, they're touching everything.
Okay, so now they're going to talk about, obviously, his truck.
There's no tracks. So in Lucin that weekend, it was raining, and you're in the middle of a desert, and tracks are everywhere when it rains. Dylan's pickup has been pressure washed. And we didn't catch it in the first couple days because we were just frantic. We weren't even thinking about it. But then we had some people from Utah come forward, and they were cavers, and they were out there that weekend, and she called me, and she gave me a bunch of great information, pictures about the weather, what the landscape looked like with the puddles. And when we pulled in Monday, we left tracks. We still had tracks. It was still that wet. There's nothing behind Dylan's pickup. There is no track that it had moved for weeks. We know it had, but there's no tracks. There's no mud on the tires. There's no mud on the rims. But one place they missed was the wheel wells. So the wheel wells are full of mud, like it had been driven in the rain, and we have videos of it. But the tires, the pickup, there's no, you should have mud on the side of it. There's nothing. It's been cleaned.
So it's like someone drove it somewhere and then parked it back where it was and cleaned it spotless on the outside.
And the other thing is so Sunday we said, we're going to move Dylan's pickup out if, at this point, the big search and rescue party had been out there that we organized. That pickup's nothing. It's probably had over 200 people touch it.
So they say that they have over 200 people that have touched this truck, but you said they can still, look for blood.
Absolutely. I mean, if there was a struggle that happened around it, and that's the reason that someone after the fact went out and cleaned it or pressure washed it, it's hard to clean up a blood spatter. And then if inside, if someone has been in it and they use that truck to transport, say that if they used it to dispose of Dylan or something, then where was he at in the truck? Was he in the back? Was he in the cab? They'd process it and be able to, it doesn't matter how many people's in there. You're only looking for certain types of evidence. And when you find that evidence, it leads to certain conclusions.
Yeah. So what's interesting about obviously the truck is, let's see if I can remove that. Switch over back to that. And I was going to try to get some more pictures because I wanted to just show you. So here's a picture of the front. So obviously this picture really is just showing how after this came out, there's been interviews with Kurt Wadsworth, and we'll have to do a part 2. But he says, because Kurt's basically I would say like the next closest person to Dylan. As far as like the person that's closest to Dylan, as far as him being out there, would be Kurt, because they just would working together next to Jim and Don, I guess you would say. But because Dylan would work and then he'd go stay in Montello, and usually he'd spend the night. And he'd stay in this guy's trailer or camper. Apparently, he had extra campers or trailers, whatever, and he would stay in one of his. But like I said, we'll talk about him when we get a part 2. But there was Kurt said that Dylan actually pressure washed his truck prior to him going missing. So it's, but that's
if it was
only
pressure washed afterwards, of course the FBI is going to be looking at anything and everything. So they're not just going to take for granted that the pressure washer was used by Dylan. That if there's a possibility that pressure washer was used by someone else, such as a perpetrator, to try to clean up or cover something, they're going to take that pressure washer and they're going to swab it and try to collect whatever type of touch DNA, or because there would have had from everything. I don't know if it was a electric pressure washer, if it's a one that runs on some type of gas engine or something and it's pull start, or if it's a key. There's a lot of areas that if you're going to use a pressure washer, you have to touch, and they would analyze that, and that would clear up. If somebody's DNA is on that pressure washer, it's not supposed to be there, then of course we build off of that also.
Yeah. So, and then the biggest thing, no tracks. And here's a picture of the truck. And it is weird. You don't see tracks behind these 2 rear tires, which is very weird because obviously I've been out there. We left tracks. This was something that I wish if I got time, I would go back and experiment and see. Obviously I would need a truck, but to experiment, just because, some of this is kind of like almost like clay, so some of it's not going to sink down as much. Some of the soil's different, but usually you're going to leave tracks because it was raining and there was mud, and then you leave tracks. So it's just so weird that they come in here and you just don't see. I'd say it's not impossible that you could have had some kind of dust storm. I don't know if it could cover up them kind of tracks.
Have a picture in between the 2 sets from the front tire to the rear tire, and if there's tracks that would have been sheltered from the rain, that if there's tracks going to be left that weren't washed away, that's where tracks would be.
Say that first part. I missed that very first part.
Do you have a side angle of when they did this video of where you can see between the front tire and the rear tire underneath the truck? Are there tracks?
Yes.
And are there tracks there? They would have been protected from the weather.
Okay, I will see if I can get those for you. I think I could get those. Rocky K9, thank you so much for the $5. Nevada has many extremely hot natural springs with boiling temperature above 103, 120. Is there any close proximity? I know exactly what you're talking about. They're hot springs. We have them all over here in Utah, kind of north. Yeah, we have them here in Utah as well. And then, of course, in Wyoming, there's you got the Yellowstone, which you fall in that, you're bye-bye. In Nevada, I'm not sure, but I know as far as close proximity, I don't think so. But that's not a bad. It's not bad thinking, Rocky K9, to throw someone in that or throw a body in that. There are lava springs as you're heading to Idaho. That would be 3 hours away, maybe 4 hours away. I don't know if it'd be enough to get rid of a body, though. But Idaho does. And on the way to Idaho. And, of course, Utah has a few. But I'm not sure if there'd be enough to as far as, like, consume a body. Not like Yellowstone. But I like your thinking. And thank you so much for the $5. You're awesome. Obviously, I appreciate everybody. If you send a PayPal or anything, I really appreciate it. Helps the channel out, keep us going here. But was it driven Sunday? There would be no tracks. Yeah, but see, we've seen tracks. Well, this is the problem though with the tracks is we saw tracks that were from like I would say days, at least 3 or 4 days old. So I mean, a lot of my drone footage, we were flying over tracks that came from people many days prior. Some of them maybe even a week prior that are still there. So that's tracks could stay for a while. So yeah, that's but yeah, as far as your question, Steve, I will definitely have to try to there's a video I've got to watch. I have a couple of reasons why I want to watch it again, because
I mean, is this the normal place where he parks his truck, and does he run over hoses? You know, most farmers, I do everything. I've lived on a farm my whole life, and I never ran over a hose in my life. After the first one, when my daddy got hold of me, and because you start tearing up equipment, and you know when you ain't got 1 or 2 water hoses, you protect them. And I know that truck. Looks like there's some hoses under that truck. Is that something that he normally would do?
That's a good question. Boy, I wish I'd would love to interview somebody that knows his routine that's out there for sure. But so here's another picture. I'm sorry, it's kind of a little more blurry. This is from the helicopter. I'm still assuming this is still just it's parked where it was last touched, hopefully by whoever or Dylan. Unfortunately, it's just not the best resolution. I will try to see if I can find some better resolution. And I know that video I played for you, we do kind of see them walk alongside the
Not gonna pull anything.
Truck. Let's see if we see anything right here. Oh,
Landscape looked like with the puddles. And
okay, so there's that hose you're talking about.
when we pulled in
I am going to definitely break this video down.
Monday,
sure.
we left tracks. We still had tracks. It was.
Ooh, see how that one little scene that we just saw right there where it zoomed? I will have to slow that down with
Landscape
my program.
looked like with the puddles. And when we pulled in Monday, we left tracks. We still had tracks.
Right there. And I'll probably have to lighten that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Can you see my mouse? You can't see my mouse.
No, I see what you're talking about there, though.
But yeah, right on. So yeah, the left tire, or our right tire, the one in the further behind. What's behind that? If I could lighten that up to see if there's tracks, that's kind of what you were talking about, right?
Yeah, for the fact that it's anywhere in there that might be sheltered, and that if there's going to be tracks, and and I don't know how hard the rain came through there. I don't know what the slope is there. I don't know if that's a place where water gathers and that would wash out uniformly or not. But when the trucks moved, they'd be able to see some things. But the hose is most tells me more about something that needs to be answered more than anything.
Right. Everybody's saying great job, great point. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, Steve's amazing. We've been putting his channel. His channel is True Crime Web. The link is in the description, along with, of course, True Crime Utah. Both their links are in the description of this video and will be posted. Been posted on the chat here. But yeah, I will. Because there's 2 things I want to do for a future video. Is I want to break down. We'll come right back to this real quick, but I want to break down
west of Lucin.
No, I don't want to break down that. There it is. One of the things I want to break down is everything that's in this picture here, because this is clearly now the crime scene. The mother has admit to that. And I would love to break down everything that's in this picture, because this was clearly taken before Jim was arrested. and really before they've actually claimed this to be a crime scene. So this is still kind of, I wouldn't say pristine because it's already been touched, but this picture, because this comes from a YouTuber that came out there early on, I think within week 1. So I guess as far as, early days of the scene not being too contaminated, this is a picture of it. And there's, obviously this is a screenshot from a helicopter view. And so I would like to kind of break down everything that is in this picture, as far as the grain shed, the grain truck, we know this is Jim's trailer. Is this Jim's truck right here? Whose truck is to the right? I would love to break down everything that's in this. Here we got an RV that's, is it mobile? Here we've got, some kind of steamroller here. I don't know, farm equipment. But so that's something I want to do in a future video and live. And then obviously the big one is what you've discovered.
It was still that wet. There's nothing behind Dylan's pickup. There is no track that it moved for weeks.
Well, it looks like whoever drove this truck last, it kind of,
it had
almost like pulled in fast.
But there's no tracks. There's no mud on the tire.
Now, everybody asks about this crack. Apparently this has been there. Everybody always asks about this.
Tires. There's no mud on the rims, but one place they missed.
Because I'm sure that would have been the first thing they noticed was that damage to the front end.
This was the wheel wells. So
unfortunately,
wheel wells are full of mud, like it had been driven in the rain, and we have videos of it. But the tires, the pickup, there's no, you should have mud on the side of it. There's nothing. It's been cleaned.
So it's like someone drove it somewhere and then parked it back where it was and cleaned it spotless.
Yeah.
So what, do you guys, if you guys have some questions for Steve, go ahead, put them up. We'll try to answer a few. I said I could pick his brain all day. Black Dove, I think I've got your email, so I'm actually going to reach out to you, and we'll definitely have you on here coming up. And because I know you will lose me today if you don't restore me. I'm not sure that's a promise. What's restore? What needs to be restored? Or are you talking to somebody else? I'm not sure, Karina. So yeah, Steve, what's as far as just everything, your thoughts that you'd like to share?
Well, since they've named and classified as homicide, that tells you a lot, and so really the public at large, it makes sense that anything that the public does now could possibly damage the case, even if they by happenstance find some type of evidence. And so, like I said, it changes the strategy anytime after that first week. It most certainly makes sense that now they're focusing. They probably have a lot more evidence. If they had things taped off and they was working it as a crime scene, they've recovered some stuff. And so we're probably right now waiting in the process for certain lab reports to come back. When those lab reports come back and it tells a story, then of course there'll be a great amount of pressure applied to persons of interest and suspects. And at that time is probably when, in the coming days, that there'll be some revelations made.
Interesting. And yes, if you do get timed out, and sometimes StreamYard actually just times out people. That's been a problem for a long time, especially when people don't have. I don't know if they do this because if I don't pay for the service, it's just something. I swear, it's just like something they just want to troll the chat or something. I'm not even kidding you. They will. It's happened to me. StreamYard will do that, so I apologize unless it was by a mod. Usually, it should tell you though. Black Dove. But Chase has been removed from Dylan Round's disappearance, and his warrant is only placed. Homicide was mentioned, but Chase has been removed from Dylan Round's disappearance, and his warrant. It's the only place homicide was mentioned. Let's see if anybody's got a question. If you got a question for Steve, now would be the time.
Are the affidavits out there? I haven't looked at them. Do you have the affidavits and all that?
I do, but I would have to pull them out from my emails, and it'd probably take me a bit. I don't want to. I'd have to pull up the screen. Problem. Yeah, but I was thinking we'd kind of deep dive if you wanted to.
Sure.
In a part 2, and
Absolutely.
Just see if anybody's got any question for Steve here. Just checking. Yeah, so Dylan's 4-wheel drive didn't work. Yeah, so the other thing with Dylan's truck, it was put in 4 low, which is a little suspicious, and the seat was pulled forward. So I've always kind of felt that was more of a setup because, trying to pin it towards a short person, His key fob was found, which is weird because if they took the truck, I don't know. I mean, would they place... I mean, if you stole his truck, and let's say they did find the key fob in his trailer, it's weird you would not only steal the truck, but then you're going to put the key fob in the trailer where you're tracking your evidence from the truck to the trailer, back out. I feel like that's,
Oh, yeah. Human nature is that they're going, why not just leave the key fob in the truck?
Yes. Or destroy it.
Or destroy it or burn the truck. And so does the truck play any part in it? Or does it play a large part? We don't know, because there is certain things that the mother said, that the seat was moved up and it was in the 4-wheel drive position that didn't work. And so those are things that people not familiar with the vehicle would have tried to do or something if they couldn't get it moving, or they used it in a certain location. So it is most certainly curious. And what does it mean? We won't know until I think someone said that they had taken the truck and they finally had processed it.
Yes, ISP has it. After. So, a lot of the stuff. And as you guys know, when we went out there, let's see. Thank you, Quentin. Yes, there is a little bit of dirt. Quentin's been on it. I really appreciate Quentin and Black Dove. I appreciate everybody being here, of course. But Quentin has always been sharing a lot of info. Of course, Black Dove, been following this case. And yes, we're going to take a deeper dive into the truck. I'm going to actually break down that video with Heavy D where they kind of fly around this area. I'm going to take apart this video here and try to brighten up some of these areas that the
landscape looked like with the puddles.
And Quentin's talking about, here, let me turn down the volume. Quentin's talking about there's, you would see some kind of dirt under the side mirrors because, it's raining. You're going to kick up dust. But yeah, I'll definitely break this video down and see if I can bring some more contrast, bring down the brightness, I guess, and play with it anyway, so we can kind of see if we can see some tracks. And that hose is interesting for sure. Like you said, it's kind of funny because I did get in trouble with driving over a hose not too long ago. So it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I don't even know how.
Out in the desert, water is valuable, and you don't.
Yes.
You don't destroy things that transport water.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. I'm just seeing if there's any questions. Under the truck. Did they test? I don't know what. I know they would be testing, obviously, near the grain shed. Near the truck, I couldn't say. You would hope, you think. Okay, here we go. At Steve. Do you think an old, obese man in poor health would be able to pull off this alone? Not killing, but making someone disappear for 2 months with FBI planes, drones, etc.? So he's basically saying, do you think... I don't don't know if he's a beast though. Do we know he's in poor health? I don't know, that takes a little much, but
Well, me and him's same age, and I most certainly think that I'm more than capable to do great harm to people if I chose to.
yeah.
And I'm old farm boy. I just don't know what type of life he led. I know
Because I mean, he was working on the farm, so
Yeah.
I don't know. If he can work on a farm, I'm pretty sure he could handle a 19-year-old kid. Now,
Oh, yeah.
carrying
And
a
it depends what you
body.
do to the, yeah, it depends on how you handle a 19-year-old kid. I mean, and not saying that he did shoot him or otherwise, but most certainly it doesn't take much to, in a fit of anger, to hurt someone with anything from some type of implement to a firearm. I've seen much older men with a walking stick put some hurtings on some teenagers, and that they messed with the wrong old man, and he messed their day up. So just age sometimes isn't the only disqualifier of what people are capable of.
Yeah. But I get what I definitely could see, hiding the body would be hard. Obviously, we don't understand. I don't think a lot of people really understand that. Yeah, dead weight is so much different from just picking your friend up off the ground. It's not dead weight. That's not really the same thing. So would that explain why the boots came off? It's one guy and he's struggling. He's dragging his body. Gets it into the truck, and then
With the boots,
get
I
it
don't
down
know
a
if they were
mine.
unlaced or laced, and I don't know how well fitting they were. If they're work boots, they were, and if they're laced and had been pulled off during, because I can tell you in close quarter fighting, a lot of times shoes and boots do come off. That they're trying to kick you, you'll grab them and they'll yank their foot out of it. I've never had where both shoes have come off or both boots, but I've more than one occasion had where a single boot or shoe to come off during some type of fight or struggle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, have you ever came across a scene where you just found the boots or
Yes.
shoes or yes?
Yeah, I mentioned it in the last one, I believe, about the bank robber that his
Oh,
partner.
that's right.
Yeah, that he took his boots off, and he actually forced the boy to write a note saying that he was going to go to Mexico. Didn't work out because, like I said, he was about 60 feet away in a ravine, covered up, and but he had removed his boots and took for control, so they couldn't run or couldn't outrun him.
Wow, that's interesting. And so McKevin says, would FBI use geolocation data from all cell phones in the area the days leading up to Dylan's disappearance? Now, geolocation is. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, most certainly with the subpoenas and stuff that they would have done, and it's much like they did with Delphi. But and there's certain court cases now where they're arguing certain things about the Fourth Amendment and obtaining some of these records, but they're still not clear about where that's going to go in the courts. But they would look at that data in a mass form and see who's within a certain location, and if it's some of the suspects such as Brenner, or if it's Chase, and they have reasons to look at them specifically, it's not hard to get a search warrant, as it's been discussed that when law enforcement embellishes and exaggerates, and that we have a missing person that we've now classified as homicide, it's easy to get those records.
Karina says, I think he took his boots off. He was kicking in fight. Maybe there was kind of a story told that he took his boots off and was kind of using it to defend himself. I don't know if that's what she's saying, but or just trying to kick and the boots flung off. I don't know. I think that'd be kind of weird for both boots to come flinging off, but I could see
both of them, not so much. One, yes, but not both.
Yeah, that would be kind of weird. But well, I wouldn't say weird, but it's not impossible. I could see in some fashion taking the boots off to kind of, I don't know, throw because it's the only thing you got on you, so you take the boots off. I
No.
know it sounds kind of dumb, but
No, I don't believe it would. Now I might take one off. Used to that law enforcement, they had things called slapjack.
Yeah.
It was just basically just leather wrapped piece of lead. And actually, I have one that my father used in his career back in the '60s. I've got it here somewhere. But anyway, and a shoe, most certainly, if you used it as a weapon, you most certainly can. But I don't think he would have took off both of them, and that would have been a last resource. And I believe that the boots were taken off either as a staging event,
yes,
or they were taken off for control. One of the two is what I believe right now.
Yeah. And I personally lean towards the staging thing. And here is Dylan could have also kicked his boots off. He knew he was trying to leave evidence. Maybe. It's not plausible. Not impossible, I mean. And the problem with the boots for me is why leave them 100 yards. Yeah, I think we could probably all agree that it's such a weird thing to find. Everything else is gone, but you got the boots. Like, you cleaned up everything.
There is an interesting possibility here that someone mentioned that if I hadn't really thought of, but it is a possibility. And because someone said that the boots looked like they'd almost been tossed.
Yes.
If you're pulling someone by their legs that is disabled, or you're moving the body to a certain location, that you might pull a boot off, and then you grab and you're pulling again, and you might pull off the other boot then.
Someone just said, this is not a bad idea. I don't think so. I think there'd be a lot more evidence, but who knows? Would his boots fly off if he was hit by an ATV or vehicle? Yes. I know that.
I know that for a fact too.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually not a bad. It's not a bad theory, bungee cord. Nice one.
But the location of where it was at, that it depends exactly where those boots were and how far apart they were. And if they're side by side within a foot or two, probably not. But if they're 10 or 15, 20 feet apart, and there is somewhere accessible that someone could get up speed to hit him, yeah, it's possible.
Oh no! Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, my husband was killed. Sorry. Husband was killed and his shoes came off. Oh my gosh! I'm so sorry, criminal sleuth. How do you hear that?
All the ones I saw that always happened though, either people walking alongside roadways or vehicles at speed, and typically we're at some high speed, not just 10 or 15 mile an hour, but 30, 45, 50 mile an hour or plus.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Sorry that happened. Gosh.
Yes, absolutely. That's terrible.
Sly Canyon. I don't want to sound dark, but possibly the rest of his clothes were removed for sinister reasons. Oh, so you're saying his clothes were removed for sinister? Yeah. I mean, it could have been derobed there. I'd be weird that they just would collect everything at the same time, but.
No, who knows? And when you speculate along that route and everything,
you could really.
I mean, you're building into a narrative that you're reaching out there and everything, and it's confusing enough with just what we've got.
Yeah, but not bad things you guys come up with. The whole getting hit, because that does happen.
It
sadly, which is crazy in itself. But yeah. As a matter of fact, because I skateboarded, and it's weird because I even have my shoes on tight, but I've been in a situation where two skateboarders will run into each other, and shoes, usually if anything goes flying, it's the shoes. It's the weirdest thing. Even if they're on pretty tight, they just, from whatever reason, just shoes go flying. So, Black Dust says, that's a problem. That this case makes sense. Yeah, it is. Now, obviously, Steve knows. Obviously, law enforcement got way more cards in the deck than we have. But the one thing, and like I said, I'm going to break this down in a future video because we're kind of coming up on 2 hours and I don't want to go too much longer, is clearly this is now the crime scene. or a crime scene, which I kind of alluded to because when we went out there, we saw the FBI completely just doing grid searches, and we saw stuff being hauled off. I can't say what I saw, but it was a vehicle. I'll say that it was a vehicle. I don't even know which vehicle it was. It was kind of far away, but they were clearly hauling stuff off. And then literally I got a phone call after we had left, the second time we searched. I got a phone call from the local that, could see everything. And they said that, yeah, it's taped off and it's got the crime scene tape from what they said. And it's been up there for days, and they were out there for over a week. I mean, just in this one area. So it definitely sounds like, they've got a lot of pieces to the puzzle. Just fortunately not Dylan. So, yeah, ABC4 Utah said the chase is not a suspect an hour ago. Yep. Like I said, that's we just had True Crime Utah, and yep, she just shared us with that. It's very interesting because he's been kind of part of the case from the beginning, but we'll still talk about him just because he's still part of the story. But we'll, I think, for a part 2, if you want, Steve, we'll dive. I will do what I can to break down that video of the truck.
Right.
See if we can see some things, tracks, other things.
And there's going to be some critical information in that affidavit, because regardless of when they did the affidavit, and because that's tell you, there's the usage of words and the reason they use certain words that's in that affidavit are going to tell you certain avenues of what they're looking for. So there's going to be some key information in those affidavits, even when it is embellished or exaggerated, but there's still going to be information that they're used for the first affidavit. And if there's been more, because I don't know how many search warrants have been issued on this. Do you?
1, maybe 2. It's
Okay.
reflective. Yeah, because I want to say the 1 for right now, but yeah, I will get those affidavits because I do have them, and yeah, I didn't even think about that, but there's just so much, and I didn't want to, like I said, there's still the Wadsworth to kind of talk about, and kind of the relationship that might be with him and Dylan, and is it just two friends that they were just, and co-workers, or is a little bit more? I'm not really worried about the relationship itself, but like just what they were doing and their, what Kurt has kind of talked about, what he's seen. Because like I said, I would say next to the parents, or obviously in front of the parents, because the parents obviously weren't out there. So really the closest person was this Kurt Wadsworth. This is where Dylan would go and stay. And so the person that knows his routine and really Dylan the most is Kurt. So now,
and they'll talk to him as, like I said, when they're building the victimology and everything, they're going to talk to his friends, and regardless if they're looking at his friends as suspects or not, because sometimes that there are certain things that are stated during those interviews that you're building the victimology that will come back and haunt that person and make them a person of interest, and actually reveal not only who did it, but what the motive was. And so they interviewed as many people in that community as they did, for not only just for the victimology, but also once those statements are made, they're there forever. And they can go back and weigh it and say what was known when, by whom, and should they have known that.
Yeah. So now I don't know if you can answer this. What does Steve think the body? I guess it'd be, where does Steve think the body might be?
There's certain rules that we used to that when we was studying the psychological profiles of offenders that murdered people, that there's an internal clock in humans And I don't know how it's been changed, but used to it was well within like 10 minutes or 7 miles. That if you could identify a scene or a abduction and it was a homicide, that it was within a certain distance that you would find them, because the longer you are with a body, the more likely you are to be discovered with it and the more chances. But that doesn't mean that you don't have the occasional outlier, whereas someone may transport them to confuse the situation and take them across a county line or a state line. Because some criminals do operate totally under that guise of creating multi-jurisdictional layers to hide their crimes. But that takes a certain amount of sophistication. And if they believe that this offender, if they have a crime scene and they've identified a crime scene, they're going to be able to tell if that offender is organized, disorganized.
Oh, right.
But if they've identified a crime scene, then they're going to be able to see that, well, did they try to clean up? What is the possible manner of death, and how much effort? And there's a lot of things that once you identify the crime scene, that makes it a whole lot easier to understand and be able to do profiles on these criminals.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those that don't know Steve, yeah, he's former law enforcement. He's not a PI. He's former law enforcement. That's where his knowledge. He was out actually in the service and a detective. So yeah, he's got. And I love Steve. Oh my gosh, I met him during the Delphi thing, and just a well of knowledge that I could just would love to pick your brain. So one more thing I wanted to say, because we are kind of hitting over 2 hours, try to keep it. Yeah, well, we'll definitely try to shoot for a part 2. And like I said, I will definitely get those 2 things. Members, I'm going to, with the thank yous at the end of my videos and stuff, I have the list with everybody. It's gotten to the point where it's so big and it's getting to so many pages, and it takes me so much time to add names, because it's not as easy as it thinks. And it's something I'll probably have to kind of discuss in a community post or in the next show. So we're going to the only thing I'm going to change for members is I'm going to just probably change to where I have mob crew level with the thank yous at the end of the videos or at the start of the videos. That way I don't have to sacrifice the pet time, because I'm going to have to either sacrifice one or the other, because it just takes a long time. And eventually that list is going to get so big that you're not even going to be able to see your name, because I'm going to have to make it so small. So I apologize. I try to give back to the members as much as I can, but unfortunately, it's just gotten to the point where it takes me so much time that I'm actually, it's causing me not to be able to do my research and affecting my videos, and we don't want that. So, but we'll talk about that in the community post. Everybody's saying thank you, Steve.
It's been an honor. Like I said, I enjoy working with you in this private web sleuth world, and I wish I'd worked with you as a law enforcement officer, because you would have done well, son. You have great critical thinking skills.
Thank you. Man, I can never tell you how much what an honor that is to hear. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm trying to find my mods here. See who's in here. Michelle, thank you. I hate StreamYard because I can't tell which ones are my mods, because they're not lit up like they normally are. So I don't know where all my mods are. It's the dumbest thing. I don't know. I guess just I'm stubborn like that. Once I get used to one program, I just want to stick with it, because it's just simple and easy. So I'm gonna, with OBS, you can use Zoom, but it's a lot harder to integrate it. Once you do, it's fine, but it's a lot of work to integrate Zoom into OBS, which I gotta do, so that way I can just not worry about StreamYard. And then Black Dove, maybe what we could do for a part 2 is maybe have Black Dove on for the first part to kind of open up the latest news, because Black Dove definitely has been following this case, been everywhere. And I appreciate your time, Black Dove. I really do. And I appreciate everybody coming in, taking the time. And, of course, Steve, the guest of coming on, I really appreciate you.
Right.
And we'll probably shoot for, you say you go live. What was your days you go live?
Wednesdays and Saturdays around 8 o'clock. Normally, I have a show.
Okay.
And,
8 p.m. Eastern?
Eastern, yes. 8 p.m.
Okay.
Eastern.
Okay,
We're-
cool.
I'm over here in Georgia.
Okay. And I am going to have a set schedule as well, guys. So, yeah, me too. I think we all agree there, Black Dove.
Well, Chris, are you
and-
just going to send me an email, or you want me to hang on after the show, whichever way you want to do it?
Oh, yeah, if you want to hang on. Yep. Just
Okay.
like we usually do it. Hang on, buddy. And
I appreciate it, guys. It's been an honor for me to be here with y'all, speaking with you, and I look forward to talking to y'all again. Y'all are a great community, and Chris is very lucky to have y'all, and I appreciate all the respect and everything y'all show each other. But I'll see y'all next time.
thank you, Steve, so much. Have a good night. We'll talk to you in a second, buddy. Okay, so that was Steve. For those that are new, that's Steve with True Crime Web. He's a former law enforcement. He's an amazing guy. I've worked with him for a little bit, and we're going to try to do a part 2. We're going to break down some stuff that he always catches something that it's just, always, whenever we start a new case or something like that, he always discovers something that it's been out there for a while. He's just got a keen eye for that. So we'll take a closer look at that truck, the hose and everything. And just, like I said, I'm going to try to break down the videos, take some screenshots. Thank you, Jill, for sending that picture of the boots. I appreciate that. That's amazing. I don't know if I missed any. Did I miss any donations? That's why I hate StreamYard is it's not the same setup. Never is. You could let me know if I missed any so I can shout anybody out. And just once again, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show. I appreciate it. I've got an outro, of course, with Steve's link. Steve's link is right here. It's also in the description of this video. So when it ends, you can just go and there's a link. You can click on it, and it's True Crime Web. Also, of course, the first guest, True Crime Utah as well. Her link's going to be there as well. And that's my email. And of course, Black Dove, I think I've got your email thanks to True Crime Utah, so I'll email you. So, all right, I'm going to do the outro. Of course, it's the pets. I think it's the first video. And of course, if you're new to the channel, if you haven't sent in a picture of your pet, there's my email at the bottom and in the link of the video, in the description of the video, excuse me. Getting tired. So with that said, guys, I love you so much. Thank you all so much for taking the time.